Ladies, welcome back to another episode of the Fit and Unfiltered podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, yes, I am in all of my straight from the gym glory. I've just got in from the gym, sat down, hit record. Because today's episode, I'm going to touch on overwhelm. It's never not a common theme. And I think because a lot of it relates to our menstrual cycle, and we know that overwhelm is heightened around that time of the month. For a start, it hits us all at different times in the month, but it's a constant ongoing. It's like a revolving door, isn't it? It's like you feel overwhelmed and then you get past it, and the following month it kicks back in. We can't quite put our finger on why. Well, we know some of it is to do with menstrual cycle. Lately, I'm speaking to more and more women who are almost feeling as though they can't find another way. They can't get past the overwhelm that they're feeling. And I think I speak to a lot of women who are of a certain similar age to me. So we're in our 40s. So I think that heightens everything. I know myself being 43, I'm going to share on today's episode, and I'm just going to touch on it. And I'm going to share some of the things that I know I've started to do differently for myself that have helped me manage overwhelm, menstrual cycle, and just the changes that I'm feeling. But I think generally I speak to more women of my age. So we are feeling it a little more. I also think the rise of the current body trends and the overwhelming pressure, and now maybe even like the introduction of AI, I don't know. It's just, we've got more information, we've got more overwhelm, we've got more to be looking at and comparing ourselves to and referencing. And the more I'm speaking to women, it's like, yeah, I've got all of these options now laid in front of me, and I am feeling more overwhelmed than ever. And it's a horrible feeling. I know it. It's a horrible feeling, and it's one that you feel you can't explain. You can have all of the things on paper. You can have the happy life. You can be in great physical shape. You can have all of the things, but I think all of us experience this from time to time. And if it is menstrual cycle related, which again, a lot of the time is when it is heightened, then it can also come with this feeling of just feeling low. Like you just feel a bit low and you can't put your finger on why. It's like, well, first of all, I want to just address this feeling and validate it, is that there's nothing wrong with you. I think we're quick to overanalyze, aren't we? If we wake up and we feel a certain kind of way and we're not feeling the most positive and we're not on maxed out battery, then we start to question why. Why can I not keep up with everything that I assume to be normal, which is we wake up every day, we're positive, we're happy, we're full of energy, we're ready to rock and roll. I know you'll recognise this, ladies, or you might if you follow me on social media, especially the ladies inside of my community. I will just go under the radar on days like that because it happens to us all. It actually, last week, so 2 weekends ago, I had my hubby's birthday party. Now, I don't know whether it was the aftermath of just like basically missing out on a night's sleep. Bit of a funny story, but I thought it'd be a wise idea for my parents to come back to my house with the kids at 10 p.m. Just a bit of a side note share. And the hubby and I'll go in a blow-up bed. I haven't got 2 double beds. Well, one's Penelope's. Anyway, long story short, the blow-up bed scenario I underestimated. Ladies who camp and you share a blow-up bed, how do you do it? Because I couldn't survive we got in bed at 2 a.m. and by 4:30 I got out and got in bed with one of the kids. Because if you're on a blow-up bed, every time the other person moves, you get jiggled around. Anyway, wasn't for me. I practically missed a full night of sleep. So I don't know whether it was that was catching up on me last week. It also coincided with Mother Nature, but I certainly just had a few days where I just felt low, really low. And it was the weirdest feeling because it's off the back of having the most amazing weekend. And through the work that I do and through the research, and I'm constantly studying and trying to, keep up with the change in research and everything else, I do practice taking the best care of myself. So I know I need to go under the radar. I need to switch notifications off. I need to lay low from social media. Like I just need to protect my own energy a little bit, which I think if we look to our own parents back in the day, that was how they lived every day. We are now switched on from the moment we wake up. Like, we've got notifications, we've got social media we can be checking, we've got emails we can be checking, we've got the kids' admin just seems to be on a new level. I mean, I don't know what it was like back in the day, but of course we didn't have all of these apps and group chats and just instant ways to be in communication. And it's amazing. It's amazing for so many reasons, but it's also making us so accessible. Is that, like, it feels strange to take a day off, all of that. Like, when I say that out loud, and hopefully when you're listening to this, we can realise how strange that is to take ourselves away from that level of interaction, communication, accessibility, even for a day, either feels really indulgent or it feels really strange. But I think that that's adding to the overwhelm, because if we're starting to feel overwhelmed more often, and it feels an exception to the norm when we actually get to be in our stride, firing off all cylinders, feeling as our best self, then something fundamentally in our day-to-day needs to change. And it has to change. It can't be something that we accept. We don't want to go through life feeling overwhelmed. As I've said, it's not a good feeling. It's not bringing out the best version of us. And without going too deep, we're in here for a long time, ladies. And so to be spending more time than necessary feeling overwhelmed, burnt out, not good enough is not the way we want to live. And so I'm just going to share a couple of things. I wanted to bring this to this week's podcast without any big bells and whistles, without any deep dive research. If you would love me to do an episode deep dive research on this and speak about serotonin and dopamine and all of these hormones that clearly shift or drop off a cliff when we feel overwhelmed, then it would be my pleasure to do that. But this episode is not about that. It's to validate that if you are feeling this way and you are noticing that it coincides with menstrual cycle, then please understand that biologically you are experiencing a big hormonal shift during your menstrual cycle. As we get into our 40s, we experience it on like a heightened level. So this happy hormone, this serotonin, it will drop. And then we start to feel low mood. And then that low mood sometimes, rather than us just recognising it, which is what I recommend to my clients to do, rather than us recognise it, we attach ourselves to it. And then we start to tell ourselves this whole story about how we're not good enough, how we can't keep up, how we knew this was going to happen. And we start to think of worst case scenarios. We get anxious about things that have happened in the past, things that might happen in the future, completely take ourselves out of the present moment and add to the overwhelm. And all the while, what is happening is we are experiencing like this drop in this happiness hormone. So one thing I would recommend is to just observe. If you wake up and you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, or at any point in the day, I want you to just observe it. Just acknowledge, I feel a bit down today. And even in doing that and just observing it from almost like a third person, you can then maybe understand a little bit more why. So it might be, wow, because I have been non-stop, 24/7, accessible, checking notifications, replying to everything in like the last 24 hours, I haven't stopped. Okay, perfect. So there's an explanation. It might be that Mother Nature has arrived. It might be that you haven't been sleeping well. It might be that you've been under eating. It might be that you've had alcohol. Like, there's a million and one reasons as to why it can all of a sudden creep up. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to attach ourselves to it. We don't want to lead ourselves down the garden paths to the point where we feel that we can't get ourselves out of it. And this is just the way that we're made up. And I'll tell you an evil trap that I find myself getting into when I feel overwhelmed or when I feel a bit low. And I've got to talk about it because this must happen to us all. Because here's me sitting here preaching about I acknowledge it and I take myself off the radar. I still pick up my phone for that quick hit of dopamine, and I am in scroll central. And what do you think I'm looking at? I'm looking at all of these perfect, beautiful families, and oh gosh, I'm seeing all of the memes about don't miss your kids' childhood, why it's, these are the best days of our lives, and I'm crying and I'm happy and then I have to step back and go, hang on, what the hell are you doing? You are making this whole situation worse because you're keeping this dopamine loop And this your body can begin to crave these quick instant hits of dopamine. We know that we get dopamine from exercise. We know that we get it from fresh air. We know that we get it from having a good belly laugh. We know that we can get it from just simply being present, being off our devices. Those actions take time, take discipline, take a bit of follow through. The phone is an instant. It's the same with the glass of wine or the bar of chocolate. We get the instant reward in that moment. You can get it within 30 seconds. And so for a lot of us, because in that moment when we're feeling overwhelmed, we can't cast our better judgment. We find it a bit harder to get in the driver's seat. We go for the easy option. So we pick up the mobile phone, or we go for the chocolate bar, or we have the glass of wine, or whatever it is. And before you know it, we're back in that loop of self-sabotaging habits. So couple of points from me, ladies. If you are feeling this kind of way, and if you're not, you're feeling top of the morning, you're feeling top of the world today, happy days, go and get after it. Save this episode, come back to it maybe when you feel like, you know what, I am going to touch base and just check back in with that episode because I'm having one of those days, because we all have them. So let's just make that very clear. It doesn't matter whether on paper you have got everything and anything you could have ever dreamed of. We are hormonal beings as women, and we're going to see this shift, and we're going to feel overwhelmed, and we're going to have our days when we feel a little low, we're overthinking a little bit, finding ourselves, comparing ourselves a little bit more. This is why it's so important to write your goals down. I've actually recently written in my notes section like a morning mantra. So talk about listening to affirmations and listening to activations and priming your mind for the day. I think it's genius. It's a conscious way of self-talk. So a lot of the time I'll talk about getting off autopilot, because autopilot is keeping us in old habits, old routines, self-sabotaging ways, whereas getting into the conscious present moment will help you see clearer. So I've written out this morning mantra, and it's only short and sweet, and it's just a reminder to myself who I am, what I want. A couple of other points that I've written down there. One of the things that I've written is the version of me that procrastinates isn't the version of me that wins, or something similar. It says, and every morning when I read it, I'm like, boom, there we go. Stop procrastinating, get out of your own head. It's something along those lines. I've worded it in a way that it just reminds me, this version of you that is stalling, that is not willing to take the action, is not the version of you that wins. And it instantly reminds me, like, what do you want, Nick? Because if you want to win, then let's move, let's roll, let's stop procrastinating, let's take the action, whatever it is. So I recommend that one. Write yourself out a morning mantra. And you know what? If you don't know how to, stick it into bloody ChatGPT. I need help writing a morning mantra. It needs to be quick, easy. It needs to be a morning reminder. Ask me some questions to get to the bottom of my values, and let's decipher my morning mantra from there. And it will quickly help you put together not a version of someone else's mantra, not like rhetorical affirmations, but a mantra that is personal to you. Ask the ChatGPT or whatever AI it is that you use. Ask it to ask you questions to get to the bottom of what is it that drives me, what is it that makes me tick, what is it that I value most, why is the reason that this matters to me, why does it matter for me to show up as the best version of myself, where do I want to get to, what are my goals? So that's one thing, morning mantra. Second thing, ladies, is genuinely closing down a few of the tabs in your brain. And I strongly believe this, and I'm learning this through personal experience, and also a lot of the women that I coach are career-driven, ambitious, very successful, high-achieving women with families and homes to run and changing hormones, and they're trying to keep up with their own health and fitness, and there's a lot going on. And like the tabs open in their brains, in our brains, like we've always been so accustomed to multitasking, even on a mental level, ladies. Like physically, we're trying to do 10 things at once, and mentally, we're also trying to think of 10 things at once. But you know, on these days when you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, that's not going to serve you. What's going to happen is you're going to feel more overwhelmed, potentially going to sabotage on some of the things that matter most to you, like taking care of your health, like eating well, like avoiding the alcohol, like going to get the exercise. You're not going to get through any of those tasks that seem to be overwhelming you. You won't do any of them to the full potential because you're too overwhelmed to take the first step, or you're jumping from one action to the next. I know it because I've been there. I want you to just close down a few tabs. I want you to just give yourself the opportunity to think about one thing at a time. I've said to a client earlier in the week, I said, I've got a challenge for you this weekend. And is that I want you to, in those moments where you start to feel a little overwhelmed, I want you to choose one or two things that you're thinking about that are just adding to the to-do list, and I just want you to let them go. And just genuinely, just let them go. I've got no power over that. I'm letting it go. It is the most freeing feeling. I can't think of an example that's come to mind, but sometimes I'll overthink of how I can help different people. It might be a family member, it might be a friend, it might be a client. And the reality is, some problems are just not mine to solve, and I want to be that person to everyone. It's a trait of mine. It's the same with the kids, with the hubby, with my mother-in-law, with my own parents. If there's something that I can do to help, I want to be able to do it. And sometimes it's at the sacrifice of all of the other things that I've got to do. And just that penny drop moment of like, let it go. It's not yours to worry about. Or it might be something that you can't take action on in this moment. It's not happening yet. It's gone, it's yet to happen. Let it go. That is the most freeing. It's going to take practice. As with everything, ladies, it's going to take practice. And this is what I've said to this client. I want you to do it this weekend. I want you to do it next weekend. We can't trust ourselves that we're going to be able to let things go when we're in that moment of feeling overwhelmed. It's got to be something that we practice in the run-up. So when the overwhelm hits, we've accustomed ourselves. Switching off social media. So again, really good practice to get into is you don't take your phone up to bed overnight. Because if you don't do it as a standard, you're not going to do it when you're overwhelmed. Audit what you are consuming. Audit it now. Don't wait for overwhelm to hit. When you're overwhelmed, you're going to consume more of the things that, like if you ever picked your phone up, I'm just trying to think of an example, but if you ever picked it up and you put your phone back down afterwards and you feel worse than you did before you picked it up, but you don't know why. You haven't consumed anything bad or overly negative. You just feel a certain kind of way. And I'll tell you what that is. That is the dopamine that you were searching for. That response is now blunted. Like you've become desensitized to it. So we need more of the dopamine to get that hit, to get that surge. That's quite a scary place to be in, but it's very, very common. It's the same, it's like insulin resistance. Okay, we get that little hit of sugar when we're young, and it's enough. But the more you keep eating sugar, chocolate, the less you get that reward. You're only getting that reward when you gorge on it, because you're insulin resistant, and we can become dopamine resistant, whereby the thing that used to give us that little reward in our minds, it's no longer working. So I need to max out on it now to even get the same feedback that I was getting previously. And so audit what you are consuming to keep yourself from feeling that way. You could also do things like, so I've got a client who shared into the group the other night, which I thought was genius. Why did I not know about this? But apparently there's a setting on iPhone where you can switch off all socials. So you can put a timer on it, like 10 p.m. at night or whatever it is, and you do not get access to your social media after this time. I think there's another thing called device, called block. I need to look into this. I'm going to look into it. I'm going to update you all on social media. Instagram is where I post the most of my stuff. So it's like this device, and I've seen it on other people doing it. You attach it to your phone and it blocks your social media for like X amount of hours, but genuinely. So I think on the iPhone one, you can still override it if you want to, which is a bit of a dodgy setup, because I know my best self, and if I want to override it, I just bloody will. Although, it puts a barrier there, but this block doesn't give you the option. So you've got to be certain I want to block socials. Imagine doing that for a full weekend. You would feel like a new woman. This is how wild our phones on notifications is impacting us. Is that if you have a weekend off it, you will feel like a new woman. So a couple of things to just take away from this short episode. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling a little bit low, please understand that part of it will be normal. We don't want to feel this way, but it's the point in time, it's the point in the month, especially if it's attached to menstrual cycle, when we do have to take the best care of ourselves. If you're feeling a certain kind of way in your clothes, in your body, again, if it's cycle related and you're feeling a little bit frumpy, you've gained weight, which we know is water, all of the things, you just got to allow yourself to feel it and acknowledge it and know that it's your mind playing tricks. It's not an excuse to go and gorge on food. It's not an excuse to throw the towel in and go and face plant a Domino's pizza. Of course not. This is the time when we need to take the best care of ourselves. So put on the baggy t-shirt, put on the baggy joggers, by all means, but then get out for your walk. Get out for your walk. Listen to the affirmations. Read the morning mantra, review your goals, spend time with your kids, get present, switch off some of the tabs in your mind. Give yourself permission to let go of a few of the worries or even jobs maybe that don't need your attention right now, aren't as important of you taking care of your mental health. And so if this has hit, ladies, you do need a little bit more support, or you want to talk about it, or you know that you need some accountability, support, structure, you need a plan that would actually take you out of your own head and put you into action, well, Thriving Women, we're waiting for you to come and join us. But know that you can always drop me a message. And if you do get the chance in the next 24 hours, 48 hours, instead of using social media to consume, audit it. Put it on your to-do list. I've just given you a job on the same podcast that I've told you to stop thinking about the amount of jobs that you've got. But this one, you're going to be on your phone anyway. Let's be brutally honest with ourselves. We're on it anyway. So use the time tonight when you catch yourself. Kids have gone to bed. Dishes still need to be done. Pack lunches, uniforms. But guess what? We're going to have a scroll. We're just going to scroll for 20 minutes. We tell ourselves it's 5. It's easily 20 before we look up. Before we're going to get to any of those jobs. You're not going to scroll tonight. You're going to audit. You're going to go through. You're going to unfollow. You're going to mute. You're going to maybe seek out some of what might make social media a more positive experience. I'm sure we all know at this point in time, 2026, that we can mute the people who, for some weird reason, we feel like we can't unfollow because what if they find out and da-da-da-da. Don't worry about it. Don't stress. You don't have to unfollow them. Just mute. Mute the stories. Mute the posts. Even mute them temporarily if it's making you feel a certain kind of way. And it might just be the overwhelm of fitness content, of food content, of this is what I eat in a day, of, just anything and everything. Like it all feels like it's adding value until it's not. And actually, I think too much information is part of why we cannot switch off. And so I'm hoping that this episode has helped. And I will look forward to catching you all later in the week on the next episode of the Fit and Unfiltered podcast.